Good day, everybody. How you doing? This is Lewie coming at you again. Uh, it snowed. We got about, maybe half an inch of snow up here on the property. And as you can see in the background, there's some white hanging off the trees and on the ground. It's just unbelievable how gorgeous this property is. Even though I hate snow, it's just unbelievable how gorgeous this property gets when we have snow on it. Anyways, the reason I'm talking to you today, I've been watching the hearings for Pennsylvania and Arizona. I watched those two hearings, and then I watched another one in Michigan. In Pennsylvania, Giuliani did a very, very good job of bringing out where the problems were with the election and how that these problems literally changed the outcome of the election to Biden getting the win. He also pointed out how many hundreds of thousands of fraudulent votes there were, and he brought in witnesses to describe what they had seen, what they had witnessed, what they knew about what happened in their precincts, as well as in the areas where they were tabulating these ballots. And then he went to Arizona, and he did the same thing, but the part that stuck out for me in Arizona was this lady. She must have been in her late 70s, early 80s. She was the head of the Republican committee for Maricopa County. And she described several events where things were not done the way they were supposed to be, that where laws were broken. And she literally came right out and said the whole thing was fraudulent. But she said that she was working on the duplicate table. And that's where a ballot is, her words, damaged or soiled so that the machine couldn't read it. So they had to duplicate that ballot and then run it into the tabulator. Okay? And that's what they did. She and whoever her partner was duplicated the ballot. They put whatever, the person that filled that ballot out, put whatever that person did on the original ballot, and then he ran it through the tabulator, and she stated that she saw the vote go from Trump to Biden when they tabulated it. She said that happened more times than not. Every time she did a duplicate, it went from Trump to Biden. Now, that tells you a lot right there. Another individual came out, and he was like a mathematician kind of person. He says he loves numbers, and he's always working with math, and he thinks that math tells you everything you need to know about anything. And he had plotted on a graph these lines, where they described the Trump vote and the Biden vote. And Biden started down here, and Trump started out up here, and they came together. And then they separated with Biden here and Trump here. And that was the end of the election results. He said the only way he was able to duplicate that graph mathematically was to give Biden 1.3 votes for every ballot that was cast for Biden. And he had to give Trump only 0.7 vote for every ballot cast in Trump's name. My question is, I thought this country was one person, one vote. So how does one candidate get 1.3 votes? How does another candidate only get 0.7 votes? That means he's getting 70% of his vote, while the other one's getting 130% of a vote. How does that happen? Now, I watched the Michigan one. Now, the Michigan one I don't have much faith in right now because, it was done by the state itself. Now, the good news is they had Republican and Democrat members of the legislature on the panel. But they're only allowing witnesses 3 minutes. And most of the time, when a witness come up, they got to introduce themselves and only briefly stated what they saw. They didn't go into any detail. Questions were asked, but the questions that were asked were not the right questions. And there was a lot of hostility there because the Democrat legislatures didn't like what they were hearing. And I can understand that. I can understand why they didn't like what they were hearing, because I can only imagine how embarrassing it is to find out that your party cheated. Okay? And I think they took it a little personal. Now, unless they were involved in it, I don't think they should have taken it personal, but I can see why they would. And because of that, excuse me a second. And because of that, I don't think the message got out as well as it should have. We'll see. I mean, maybe Michigan will surprise me and they will fix everything and see that Trump actually won in Michigan. I don't know. I can't predict the future. I've tried. It doesn't work. I never get it right. But it's just amazing how a country that clearly shows Trump is the favorite of the majority can go as far as cheat to get somebody else elected. And then when people say, no, this isn't right, they ignore it. And I say this because in Arizona, while Rudy Giuliani was conducting this hearing with the state legislatures, the governor and the attorney general certified under penalty of perjury that the voting that took place, the election that took place, was true and accurate. Under penalty of perjury. That means they can go to jail for signing this. And they did it during the hearing. Instead of paying attention to anything about the hearing, they went ahead and did it. It seems to me, if I were governor and there's a problem with the voting in my state, I would be very curious as to what the problem is, what evidence there is, and find some way to make sure that the evidence is either A, false, or B, not going to change the outcome of the election before I signed anything to certify. It just seems the only right way to do it. However, they chose to ignore the fact that there was a hearing. They chose to ignore the fact that there's a preponderance of evidence. When I say a preponderance of evidence, we're talking hundreds of thousands of votes. The way I understand it, I could be wrong, but the way I understand it, President Trump lost Arizona by 90,000 votes, according to the election that took place. And yet they've got evidence of hundreds of thousands of votes that were cast illegally or improperly. Now, if a vote is cast improperly, okay, depends on what the improper part of it was that makes the difference. Okay, if it was an error by the individual handling the ballot, an honest error, then I can understand it and I can overlook it. But if it was done purposely, improperly cast purposely, I'm not happy about that, because that's cheating. Accidents happen, cheating doesn't, unless the person is doing it on purpose. You can't accidentally cheat, is what I'm trying to say. To cheat, you have to consciously know what you're doing. And it seems to me, from what I heard, a lot of people knew what was going on. And I still question these ballots that are coming in 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning, because every polling area has its own tabulators. Every section, the states are divided up into sections. There's no way that these sections are 4, 5, 6 hours away. I'm sorry, that just doesn't make sense to me. Now, I know I come from a small area, a small county, small towns and such, but I have never in my life, in my travels, gone through a county that took 6 hours to go through a county. I've never seen it. All right? I go through entire states in less than 6 hours. Even Pennsylvania is a 6-hour state, and it's a big state, just like New York. It's a big state, and it takes less than 6 hours to get from one end to the other, from west or east to west, west to east. It takes less than 6 hours. You can go a long ways in 6 hours. So you can't tell me that it takes 6 hours, 4 hours for the ballots to get from a polling station to where they're getting counted. You just can't do it. So, all right, well, I've rattled on long enough. Keep the faith. Excuse me. Keep the faith. We're going to win somehow, some way. We're going to win. Oh, and one more thing that I found remarkable. In the Pennsylvania hearing, this lady come up as a witness, and in her statement to the state legislatures, she stated there are people ready to lay their lives down for our country. She didn't say the actual word civil war. She didn't say there was going to be a shoot 'em up thing coming. But at the same time, she actually did say it. Be careful. That's all I can say is be careful. We'll talk to you later.